Hello.
Welcome back to the Bible Study Girl podcast. This is Sarita. You may know me as Bible Study Girl, and with our fabulous introduction and hello, he tries to be like me, but it's not quite right, is none other than the executive producer of this podcast, Bible Study Brother.
What's up, people? It's Bible Study Brother, also known as Icarus Gray, over at Gray Area Anime, and this is the most wonderful podcast of your day. Icarus Gray's new single, Energy, out now. Get your energy up and get you some scratch crafts.
That is ENERGY. I had to spell it because some people might have heard Entergy, the electric company, and that is not correct. And I only say that because I know somebody personally that typed in Entergy and it was wrong. Okay, so great plug for that new single dropping that's already out. You guys can listen to it. It has a nice beat. Boom, boom, boom. I like a nice beat. It's a good writing song. Bible Study Brother probably has lots of energy because today in our blog recap series, we get to talk to the first person that ever made a guest appearance on the blog spot, and it's none other than our very own Bible Study Brother. I kind of felt in my soul you were going to go with the applause, so I gave it a little beat.
You did good. Also, on this episode, obviously, because I wrote the blog post, we're going to switch it up. So, Bible Study Girl is going to give your thoughts on my blog post and what it did for you. And then at the end of that, as under our new format, I'm going to say what I was thinking when I wrote it. And then I'm going to go into what I think now.
And the great thing about this is that one part of doing my job that he didn't remember is I have to give you the title of this here blog. So you know what to search for.
Wait. I got it. I'm going to do my job.
No, I'm going to do it.
It's my job this episode.
Go ahead, because the tables have turned.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so the title of this blog, if you would like to read along with us, is How I Learned to Read. And what you're going to do is you're going to click the hamburger icon up at the top because...
It's a magnifying glass.
You're going to click the magnifying glass up at the top and search because there are a lot of blog posts. And blog posts come every day. There we go.
Okay, after you click it, you need to know what to type in. And it's How I Learned to Read.
I said that.
I know, but it's easy to lose focus. When you're listening to somebody, because you could be half listening. A lot of people probably listen to this while they're like doing stuff. So I like to be as clear and succinct as possible. News is it's my turn to shine. My turn. Drum roll, please. I get to talk to you guys about what I got from How I Learned to Read. No applause needed. I'm just here. So I'm going to say this too. As you can tell, probably by the way I've been talking about my blog recaps as we've gone along, especially in last week, the last episode. At this point, I'm reaching a bit of desperation, okay? I've been writing, doing what the Lord called me to do, and I'm panicking at the same time because it seemed like an impossible task to be able to sit and write a blog post every single day. It required a lot of restructuring of my day. I had to be committed and focused. Like I would come in from work and that's the first thing I would do so that I would be sure that it would be ready to be published the next day. Because one thing you may not know about me is if I'm going to do it, I want to do it well. And if I say it's going to be out at this time, I want it to be out at this time every day. I want to be consistent. I want to do what God has called me to do with a spirit of excellence. So I was under a tremendous amount of pressure. I can't say with absolute certainty that it was a God-led decision to ask other people to write. It may have been derived from panic, guys, but I made the decision to ask other people to share their stories. I will say that is one thing that has been authentic with me from the very beginning. Tell me about your walk with Christ. I want to hear about it. Can you put it down on pen and paper? I asked several different people to do it. I got a lot of pushback from people like, well, I can't do what you do. So I'm not even going to try. This is your thing. Good luck. But I presented it to Bible Study Brother, and he was willing to have a little talk with Jesus and put it on the keyboard, the tippity typies, and write out a blog that I would be able to submit on the website. Now, I will say, even with that in mind, I haven't ever not had a blog ready to go up, period. When I was in my stride, even if I asked somebody and they agreed, there was always a blog. Because, life happens. Somebody might not be able to fulfill what they said, but my assignment was to make sure there was a blog post every day. So I was thrilled when I got a blog post from Bible Study Brother, and he chose to talk about how he learned to read. And so I was thrilled to get it, thrilled to sit down, thrilled to read it, and really just like take a back seat and listen to his voice and listen to what God was saying to him, and then be able to appropriately respond. So I'm going to tell you what I was thinking. That was a long intro, but I just wanted you to know where my mind was. That's part of the purpose of this podcast, to get you deeper into the mind of me. So anyway, I think the main thing that stood out to me is, and it was really at that point in time, it was a confirmation to me. God has things that he wants you to do, even if you feel like you can't do it. So see, my whole thing tied together. Even if you feel like you can't do it, it's something that he has assigned to you, and he has the expectation that you will go out, you will get it, and you will do it. Bible Study Brother used the illustration of him learning how to read and not really wanting to learn how to read, and like the struggles he had to go through to get to the point where he finally, oh, this is something I can do. And I think that's something that's so relevant. And to me, and to this whole blog and podcast experience, that God has taken something that seems so big to me, writing a blog every day, being on a podcast, all that stuff is like impossible things that weren't necessarily, they weren't in my plan for my life, and they weren't things that I felt like I would be able to do. I didn't want to have to go through the hard times and figure it out. But the Lord was faithful. The Lord was patient. And when he's delivered me and helped me with the blog and the podcast, he always does it suddenly. It's a new thing. It's an awakening, and it's not something I could have planned for. No matter how much I fought against it, it's always a great result. So that's what I got.
Amen. So let's go back. I think what I was thinking when I wrote it, or even at the question of whether or not I would do it, I feel like I was 100% panicked. I mean, now I know that.
Really?
Oh yeah. Now I know that there was. It's not that especially not. I mean, in a writing sense, I know I can do what you do because we're that in terms of writing. But your particular voice, I didn't know. Like I didn't have to have that, but there's a flavor to what you do. So I know I was a little bit worried, but I
will say this. I really wanted, one thing that was important to me is I didn't want the blog to sound like, I wanted it to sound like me. If you're reading it, I want you to be able to hear my voice. Like if you know me and be like, okay, that sounds like this fool. So it's encouraging for me to hear you say that the blog sounds, you can hear my voice in the blog, because that's important to me, because I feel like everybody's story is their story and it has to be told in their voice. And I think that is something that I know for sure is something I said to Tamika, because she was like, mine ain't gonna sound like yours. And I was like, it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to read like mine. It's your voice. It's your story. And I will also say Tamika freaked out, but we'll get to that whenever we get to her blog post. Go ahead.
It was also the origin of being called Bible Study Brother, which was another funny thing that we got from this, because this is pre-accepting call and everything else. So I'm like, kind of like not want, like I think I messed with you about it. But the
how did we come to Bible Study Brother?
I don't know. That I don't remember. It's another one of the many millions of names that I have no idea of the origin, which I'm going to do a whole episode on at one point. But the funny thing about it was, I also, here's the thing about you, especially when it comes to me and you asking me to do something, or anybody for that matter. So when you asked me, as you were talking about it, I'm pretty sure you did state that you had a blog post written in the event that I did not come through or whatever the case may be. And so when you say that to me, that was always like a, dang, she really don't expect me to do this. And
did you consider it a challenge? Is your competitive nature coming out?
no,
Or
this was normally like my insecurity of feeling like, well, dang, like if anybody gonna do it, I think you should expect me to do it, you know. So it's one of those like I didn't want to fail you moments. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I don't know how I thought about what I was gonna write on. I feel like maybe I probably told you I already had something in mind, so maybe God was like already speaking through me at the time of it or whatever. But I don't know. I can't remember that part. But I remember when I wrote it being like, oh, I see how Sarita does her blog post, whereas you give a situation and then you reveal how God worked through you. And I was like,
right.
oh, I can do that. So this could also be considered maybe potentially my first little sermon, because this is even before pastor started asking me to do like the little speeches or whatever at church. So we do. I ended up writing it, or the thought of it came to me, and I was like, well, that is actually a good illustration, and I think that is pretty funny because it's a story I hear all the time, and I can still remember that feeling. I remember where I was in grandma's apartment in St. Louis. I remember like what at least the look of the little baggies would be that came along with the book, and the like. I don't know why that's so crisp in my head.
And the tape.
Yeah, the
Yes,
tape.
I remember. Now that you
Yeah,
I
like
can
it's just
see
like
you
this
carrying
little,
it.
like the smell of like the books and the way that
Right.
library smell just had this, not like it was bad, but it just smelled like books. Like books have this
They have a smell.
wisdomy
I love the
smell. Like
smell of books.
I can't explain it to you. But so I started to think about all of these different things, and I was like, I remember that, and I think I know how to like illustrate perfectly kind of how God works things out in me, because this was something that he continued to do, you know, throughout my life, is whenever I felt like I couldn't do something. And it was also a representation, I think, like I said, of even when I was telling you earlier about the insecurity, when you're like, I got blog posts. I mean, I'm asking you, but if you don't do it, you know. So in my head, like, okay, getting over, stepping out onto faith, stepping out into the wild, quote unquote, unknown, where God has to lead you because you can't see the outcome of it. This was that first tangible, I can remember it moment for me.
Right.
Because I had set myself to be not able to do it, not able to do whatever, and I'm like, okay, I wanna give this out. How I feel about it today is even more like that, especially in these last 5 years. In the last 5 years, I have leaned all the way into just doing what's asked of me. Not that I didn't when I was younger or in my teen years or whatever, because I would do what was asked of me in terms of
Not with the reading, child.
not with that. No, not with reading, not with
Let me
stuff that
tell
I
you,
felt like somebody was. I don't know. That's a different thing.
can we differentiate? Because I remember a different Bible study, brother, than the one you're presenting to people. When we think about St. Louis and our summers with our grandmother there was not a lot of leaning into what you asked.
Oh, no. I didn't mean that then. I said today.
Oh, okay, you're on
I
today.
said in these last 5 years. Okay. I said
Praise
today.
the Lord.
I clarified very clearly, Madam Shade.
All right.
Get the shade off me. I'm going back into the light now. I said, today I said, and then I even gave in the last 5 years
You
specifically.
said that, but then you were like, when I was a teenager, I would lean into what I felt
Well, what
was
I meant was is,
okay.
and a lot of times if you ask me to do something, I would do it. But the thing about leaning into all of the things that God would ask me to do, no, I wasn't readily there, but I still stayed in the places that I needed to stay. When God was moving me to do something, I did it. If it
Right.
was doing a solo for silent choir or whatever the case may be, like these were things that were like, yes, I want to do
Okay.
that. That's what I mean.
Can I ask one more petty question
Go
and then I will
ahead.
let you get back? Okay. Was the Lord leading you when you was chasing after that girl at church or no?
You know what?
And remember when you had failed? Remember?
I remember falling. I do remember falling. Listen,
Okay,
moving
I love
on.
you.
It's your
Okay, back
pettiness.
back to serious.
Gosh.
I'm just saying, you're my little brother. That's what I'm here for. The ribbing. Ha
um.
ha ha.
Yeah, man. So it was like the past 5 years have been lean into faith and step out there, even if you don't think you can, you can. Um.
Can I say this?
What's up?
I will say, I think I'm 100% certain that marriage brought that
I was.
out
I,
in
I was getting
when
there.
you.
I was
Okay, go
definitely
ahead.
getting there.
All right.
That's the number one thing, and then after that, it was stepping into a role of being myself and believing in myself, not believing in myself under the constructs of what everybody else believed. Like, and I think that was the harder portion of it. That was the harder part of even learning to read is like, you can say it all you want to, but I don't feel that way. And getting to a point where I can accept the reality of what it was that I can do or that God is asking me to do was difficult. I've always been, part of the church, did stuff. I did sound, like I did lift 1,000,000 chairs to set up every event in the world,
And we
and
thank you for your service.
and then break them down and I'll cook for the church and done all these different things that I was like, while I was doing them, wasn't really something that I did for the other things that God would ask me to do. So you get to these 5 years in terms of what I was thinking about today and learning how to read and the things that I'm capable of. Like, I never would have thought I was capable of moving out of mom's house because there was something that made me afraid of everything. I couldn't read the situations of like, you can be just as successful as your mom, as your sister. You just have to find the thing that you can do with that. You're not crippled to the information that's given to you, whether even if somebody expects that because of things that you're doing because you don't really do whatever or you seem lethargic or whatever, you can do it. So, getting married and realizing, as I've said before, even with our little situation, standing on me for once in a way that was like, the decision is the decision. I handle things in a way that I'm not proud of, but I'm not mad of my decision in that way. And being able to, make the decision to move, changing jobs, moving all the way out here. I had a moment in the middle of this podcast where I even realized for the first time that, because we do this weekly, every other week almost. And so I talk to you so often that I couldn't feel the actual physical weight that you're not like here.
Right.
But for whatever reason today, when we started, like in the middle of the other thing we did, it started hitting. And it was like, ooh, I got scared for a second. I got scared in this way of like, yo, like I can't, if I needed something, I can't really do this. I can't like run and be like, sister, like
Right.
help me. Um, but I can, and I know that I can make it and be strong and do what God is having for me to do. The thing about learning how to read that was so hard is you can tell yourself a lot of what you're not while not listening to what God says you
Ooh, that's a
are.
word.
You can do a lot of that. And that's what I was doing. It's like, I was yelling, I'd accept being dumb. Like even intentional stuff. Like I remember what I was saying. Like I just wanted to, like I could not only. And the thing about it is, not only could I read, my comprehension was still there because that's the reason I was like, well, I get it. I understand what's being like my. I'm putting everything together, and like I didn't even believe that it was together. Like God can give you the means to succeed, and if you don't believe that these tools will work for you, then you're not gonna do it.
Ooh,
And
talking to me?
um it's like I think about this, especially this year. The thing that got me through um was just trusting and earnestly stepping out on faith, because I was hurt, I was grieving. I like, numbed things out. I was even thinking about that in regards to what I was just saying about the distance thing. Like I numbed myself out in a certain way that I
Right.
didn't. Like there's a spiritual aspect that God placed a peace on me, but then there's also the aspect of I also just have been so tunnel vision since January of 2021. Um in losing everybody because I was like, it's all I could do. I didn't know how to relax and just
Right.
kind of step into the faith of you're actually doing it. And I'm just like, I'm very appreciative of being in a place where I know that I'm capable. I know that we are capable, and I'm always in your corner, as you know, because cheerleading and whatever. But I say it because I know you can, and I've seen you do it. I've seen you do harder things than a podcast. I've seen you accomplish and step over obstacles that are harder than a blog post. Um,
Can I tell
and
you this?
what?
I what you're saying is all true and it's all accurate. And a realization I've come to recently, you know, I have been pushing. I want other people to share their stories. Ooh, tell me your stories. Cause I love to hear people's stories. People's stories have changed my life and people's stories have helped me. But I really have come to the realization that the Lord, I mean, he may want other people to tell their stories, but what's special about this is that he asked for you to share yours. And
Yeah,
you need to sit in that, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't feel like it, even when you don't want to say it. You need to sit in that and be obedient to him and share your story. And when there is an appropriate time for somebody else to share theirs, they'll come along, but that shouldn't be your main push. That shouldn't be your main drive. Your main push and your main drive, it should be to do what he asked you to do, and that was to share your story,
yeah, and
even though
that's
it's
the
hard for
thing.
me at
And
times.
it's hard. But like I said, you've accomplished way more in harder situations. Um, that others may have crumbled under, and not in no comparison situation, but just in knowing how equipped you were to get through because God had already equipped you, and giving you authority over the roles that you were in. You were overqualified in a lot of situations for these situations that have been presented to you. And that's what the blog post, means to me now, and even still meant to me then, is that there is purpose in each and every one of us. And matter of fact, I use my phrase. So I might have already preached or done something because I used my phrase, which is there's nothing new under the sun except you, one perfect you. Um, and that just came to me out of like, it just dropped in my spirit because so often that's why people are so rebellious, is because when somebody tell you there's nothing new and this, that, and the third, you just feel like I gotta, and it is
Free
not,
pass.
I gotta go out here and do, and it's like that's not what they're meaning to say is whatever convenience is nothing new. You creating a an easier way to do something is nothing new. It's just a new ingenuity. The thing about it is you were the new thing person, the new vessel that had to do what you were made to do.
Right.
That was going to revolutionize things or bring concepts and thoughts, easier to attain. And we often kind of run away from that. We often run away from the fact that the calling and the purpose is in us. I think I was also in that as I'm looking at different lines and stuff. I know that I was talking to you in a certain way of saying so often people like I can't. Oh, that ain't my calling. That ain't my.
Right.
And it's like,
My favorite line is that's not in my wheelhouse.
yeah,
I just told somebody that the other day.
yeah, and it's recognizing that, but also not being willing to try is the only problem. Because if you do it and you're terrible at it, like so many times churches, and we talked about this, I think in one of the episodes with Tamika where we were talking about just being tired in the church.
Right.
And the thing about it that I said, and that's still true, is you can get into just because your church is asking for help and you get somewhere, if you are not good at it and it's draining you, you can do something else. Like, don't let the church, no, it's just, like, yeah, no. I'm going to spiritually get where I'm building, and then on the other hand, you might want to try and look at it from the perspective of, are you actually trying, or are you just kind of, just already saying that this isn't for you? But discernment is key. And that was the biggest thing I think about the blog post is just to discern.
Yep, discernment is key. And I guess I'm taking your job on the back end. We have to know, we have to get to work. We have to do the hard work. And I think as we go along the way, we discovered that the hard work is really not that hard. Once you peel back all those layers, I think the hardest part is being submissive and that obedience. Because you had an obstinate spirit, my brother. I'm going to tell you.
Mm-hmm. No, I know.
He was hard headed. I remember being in Ventures in St. Louis and having to run under the what do you call those things, the clothing racks, and get him. Because grandma would be like, I'm not finna run after him. You better go get him. An obstinate spirit. And I think it's important, honestly, for us as Christians to have an obstinate spirit, not against God and what God wants us to do, but against those the things that come against us. We have to be obstinate and be determined to make it. I had somebody tell me today they admire my strength and my faith in the Lord. And I had to go on, pop that bubble and say, yeah, I mean, I've come up against some really hard things and come up against some really hard times, and I do have faith in the Lord, but it ain't been easy, baby. I didn't want it to give up, like for real, on several occasions. So, what are you doing?
Trying to turn this light off.
Oh my gosh. So I've had to come up against some real heartaches and hardships. But at the end of the day, everything that I felt was too much or insurmountable or impossible, God has really opened my eyes and allowed me to read the situation in the appropriate way. So hopefully you guys got something out of this podcast. It wasn't us just talking to each other on the Zoom call. I hope something was said that encourages you, that helps you to read the situations in your life just a little bit better and make things a little bit easier. The plug that we always give at the end is that you can find new blog posts every day at BibleStudyGirl.com. And if you are listening to this right now, you really can, honey. There's a whole plethora and bank of blogs that you can read. You can take read one a day if you are just getting into this. And honey, you have a blog every day. And by the time you get to the point where you would have run out, there will be more replenished. I'm still not at the full capacity mark. But every day I'm trying to do a little bit better and do a little bit more. If you want to reach out and engage with us on social media, you are more than welcome to find us on Instagram at underscore Bible Study Girl. You can find us on Twitter at Bible Study Girl, the number 2. You can also find us on Facebook at Bible Study Girl. We'd love to engage with you. We love to hear how hearing our stories is helping you. And you don't have to engage. That's fine. But we love to hear from you. What are you trying to say?
If you'd like to be added to the prayer list or anything, you can email us at BibleStudyGirl2019@gmail.com.
Correct. I check that email frequently, and I really have gotten some good insight, and some amazing opportunities have come through through Bible Study Girl 2019 at gmail.com. So we definitely want to pray for you, not so we can be all in your business, but because we know life is hard. And if there's anything we can do to lift that load a little bit, we definitely want to do it. We want to encourage you and walk with you. What other spiel am I supposed to give? Oh, this is the new spiel that my brother hasn't adopted quite yet. But the new spiel is that a new podcast drops every Saturday at midnight. So if you are up late on Friday night into Saturday and you're up at midnight, you guys can listen to the freshest edition of the Bible Study Girl podcast. And we hope that it'll be something, like I said before, that will continue to encourage you, lift you up, let you know that you're not alone in this faith journey, and that you can read these situations in life well. Okay, so now that I've said that, I want you guys to remember that it's not the little brothers that don't want to read that preach. Although they can accept their calling and preach later in life, it is not the little brothers that punch their toys while we're podcasting to make the light turn off that preach. It is not the overly dramatic girls known as Bible study girls that preach, but it's we preach.
And until next time, guys, keep preaching.